Massive Iron Channel. I'm Steve Shaw. I decided to do a live Q&A and throw you guys a curveball and do one in the middle of a Saturday. Just got home from grocery shopping and I've been slacking for a while. Haven't done a Q&A for a while, in probably about 3 weeks. Last weekend I was off in Buffalo, the Buffalo area, hiking with the winner of American Grit Season 1. And I had a great time. We went off the trail and did some crazy shenanigans in the snow and ice. And the weekend before that, I went to Wisconsin. How's it doing, guys? I'm going to be running a live Q&A for at least a half an hour. And after that, I'm going to go get some grub. I'm all ready to go, caffeinated, got my jingle cup. And hit me up with questions. If I miss your questions, just toss them back up. And I'll try to get to as many as I can. Gladiator says he's been hiking great. That's great to hear, because it's such a wonderful way to burn calories, and hiking is also great for overall health. Somebody asked what happened and why I hadn't been doing a Q&A. I've been off traveling the world, seeing people. Let's see. So, oh, what's happening? Sorry, I thought you said what happened. All right. So if you guys have any questions, pop them up. I've been out and about. It's been freezing here in Ohio. We've been trying to hike, but any advice for a 44-year-old looking to gain muscle? The best advice I can have is to focus on a very clean diet. Focus on, you don't want to get fat during a bulk. You got to be very patient. You also want to not overdo the volume and focus on making sets count rather than trying to overkill the volume, and really focus on recovery. For me, after I work out 2 days in a row as a 50-year-old man, the third day I just want to park my butt on the couch. So lifting every other day seems to be about best for most men over 40, so just keep that in mind. What do you think about concurrent periodization? I wrote an article on concurrent periodization. You can find it at tigerfitness.com. Just Google tigerfitness.com, concurrent periodization. I have a video on concurrent periodization on here. You can find that as well. So that presents my opinion on concurrent periodization without hashing it out again. Any powerlifting or strongman book recommendations? Oh, wow. That's a good one. Strongman stuff, Doug Hepburn's old book is it's just a fun old book. I mean, he's got some of his programs in there. I recommend that. What is it? Brooks Cubic Dinosaur Training, or whatever it is. That's a must read, even if you don't like that style of training, for the strong guy. As far as powerlifting books, so many of them just present one system rather than a look at all systems or things that you can do in general rather than pushing one system. You can check out my book, Massive Iron, as a good base building book. But, as far as strongman, I'd get Doug Hepburn's book. I would get Brooks Cubic stuff, and beyond that, maybe check out Bill Hinburn online. Bill Hinburn, he's got a ton of old strongman, powerlifting type of books that you might just absolutely love. Bodybuilder or powerlifting, what do you suggest? I'm a beginner. There is no difference between bodybuilding and powerlifting for the beginner. The beginner is a power builder. To get big, you need to get strong. To get strong, you're going to need to get bigger. They're synergistic. They're the same process. Once you've been building muscle and strength for 2 years, then if you decide you want to compete, then you can refine your training for a specific type of goal. Let's see. I'm a 55-year-old young man. Started working out during the last 6 months after 30 years. Should I squat? I need your suggestion. You want to do some form of a squat, absolutely. Do you need to squat heavy? No. It's very beneficial to learn how to squat. Take your time. Don't rush things. Learn good form. Start with maybe goblet squats. And, maybe a little bit of front squats. But absolutely, take your time and learn how to squat. If I miss your questions, post them up again, because I get a lot. Do you think training 2 days a week is good for gaining muscle? Yes, it can be, as long as you are maximizing the sets. What do I think of Mike Mentzer's HIIT? I think it's shit. I think it's crap. whenever you see a program, I mean, there's some good principles in there, but lifting every 10 to 14 days and doing one set to failure on things like squats and all this kind of stuff, it's just, look, the training to failure thing is wonky, and here's why, and I've explained this before. There's a debate on should you train to failure, shouldn't you train to failure. Every exercise is different. It should be, the question shouldn't be should you train to failure, it should be is training to failure on a specific exercise safe? It's much more difficult to train to failure on squats than it is on, say, dumbbell bench press. There's also the question that when you train to failure, your form's going to break down, which increases the risk of injury. And there are certain exercises where you don't want to do that. So there's some good things that can be learned from Mike Mentzer's hit. Mike Mentzer gained most of his muscle mass without it. Whenever you see a bodybuilder or powerlifter put together a system based on how they train now rather than how they built their muscle mass, you have to take that with a grain of salt. Let's see. Number one muscle building tip, please. The number one muscle building tip, Anthony, is make every set count. Check out my book, Massive Arm. Make every set count. The more reps, the deeper into a set you get, the more muscle fibers you're recruiting, and that is my best tip for building muscle. Rest periods between sets. This is a question, more than any other question I've received over the years. The question about rest between sets is one that I've received more than anything else, and people overthink it. Don't worry about rest in between sets. Each exercise is going to be different. You come back after a set when you feel physically and mentally ready to go. So you can give that set you can give that set 100%. After squats, it might take 5 minutes sometimes after a heavy set of squats. So my thoughts on Wendler's 531, I really haven't looked at all the modifications he had. In general, cycling, the old school Wendler's 531 where you took off every 4th week, I didn't care for that because that's wasting 13 weeks of training on deloads. A lot of Wendler's is overthinking. It's a generic program. Anything can work. I believe, as far as the assistance exercises, you got to approach it like I teach in my rep goal system or in my book Massive Iron about making them sets count. So any program can work, you just have to approach it wisely. So if you're going to run a Wendler's 531 cycle, just make sure you got your assistance work nailed. What are your thoughts on Doug Hepburn's program? I wrote an article on that over at tigerfitness.com. Google Tiger Fitness, Doug Hepburn, you'll find some good thoughts on that. What is your pre-workout meal? I don't really eat pre-workout. I eat 2 egg cups, which are an egg with turkey bacon around it and little Asiago cheese. It's about 250 calories. I eat that at 2:30 or 2:45, and then I work out at 4 o'clock. So I don't like to eat with a lot of food in my stomach. How would you go about if you only had to use weights on the weekends but could train throughout the week with body weight training? What would I do? I would make sure I came into the weights on the weekend fresh. So I would do an upper lower on Saturday and Sunday, probably a lower on Sunday, and then I'd probably do 2 intense body weight workouts, maybe Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Thursday, or whatever. And by intense, I mean I would probably do the body weight stuff in block training, or I would probably use block training. And what I mean by that is, since you don't have weights, do push-ups like in a 3 to 4 minute block, 2 to 3 to 4 minute block, and do as many push-ups as you can in that window. That's a great way. That's rest pause training or block training. That's a great way to really tax a muscle when you have no resistance. So I would use block or rest pause training during those 2 body weight workouts. You really aren't going to need more than that, because if you do block training, you're going to be sore as heck. So that's what I would do. Any advice for a stiff neck and back? Hard to turn my neck. It's in knots. I would probably, heat to loosen it up. I'd probably get a massage, and if it's always You know, I would probably, one of the issues I see with my neck is that if I don't get enough sleep, I have neck issues. So I would probably make sure you're getting enough sleep. And you might want to just do some light strengthening work to see if that can help release some of the tension. Is creatine safe? Creatine is extremely safe. It's found in foods we eat like beef. Creatine is absolutely safe unless you're taking, it's probably the most well-researched muscle building ingredient in the history of the industry. It's absolutely safe unless you are taking something that is extraordinary, and ain't nobody got time for that. Is accommodating resistance bands and chains useful for a lifter in immediate stages? Absolutely. I love accommodating resistance, and I know there's some guys that don't like it, but I've never seen them actually use it. That's the thing. I have worked with some of the strongest men in the world, and when I say that, literally, Donnie Thompson, who was the strongest man in the world until his powerlifting total was beaten. But I trained with Donnie in South Carolina. I've trained with I've not trained with the Lillibridges. I've competed with the Lillibridges. I've trained and competed with a lot of the strongest men on the planet. And just backstage and at the gyms with these guys, you know, a lot of these guys use accommodating resistance in some form or fashion. I love it on deadlifts because on deadlifts, when you're floor pulling a lot, you can really tax your lower back. So I like to alternate between floor pulls. I like to recommend alternating between floor pulls and something a little bit off the ground, 3 to 5 inches with maybe accommodating resistance or whatnot. Or if you're going to floor pull, you can also use accommodating resistance to make it heavier after you're off the ground to really work out, to really hammer your lockout. Most guys can get the bar off the ground on deadlifts, a really heavy weight off the ground on deadlifts, but they struggle on lockout. So I think it's great for that. And I also think for the bench it has value, and for squats it has value because you're going to have more weight on your shoulders. It's easier in the hole, but you're going to be holding more weight at lockout, more weight on your back. That's going to be good for your central nervous system. That's going to be good for your confidence. So there are a lot of other positives to accommodating resistance other than just the training your lockout. So just keep that in mind. I hope that helped. Should teens get shredded? Teens should first and foremost worry about cleaning up their diet. Teens are a freaking hormonal supernova. And the only thing that stops the supernova is generally eating like doo-doo. So teens should focus on listening to their body, eating when they're hungry, and eating 80 to 90% clean foods. That's what teens should focus on. If they do that, they're not going to put on a lot of extra body fat. If teens have a lot of extra body fat, they should just focus again on cleaning up their diet. Getting shredded, if you're not genetically there already, is just not something I would do as a teen. Don't fuck with your hormones. Don't fuck with your hormones. You do not need to be shredded to pick up chicks. You do not need to be shredded to be an important, vital human being. Being shredded does not define who you are. You define who you are by your actions. So keep your hormones in check. Be a good human being, and if you want to get shredded, wait till you're done with your teen years. That's my opinion. If you don't like it, you can throw things at me, and I'll probably not duck. What do you recommend for tall, skinny guys? These types of questions, whether you're a tall, skinny guy or a short, round, or whatever you are, it's all the same thing. Tall guys have you got to build muscle and strength. You got to use the good exercises. There's no special rules for anybody. Tall guys do have some special issues when it comes to the major compound movements, but thankfully I've put together a couple really good articles and videos on this on tigerfitness.com, squatting for tall guys, deadlifting for tall guys. A good friend of mine, Rob, is a sheriff in the area, and he's very tall, and he put together some really good tips. So I would check those out on tigerfitness.com. Google squat for tall guys, deadlift for tall guys, tigerfitness.com. You'll find some really good information. Does strength equal size over the long run? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Unless you're just training singles. and doubles and triples, and that's just silly. But if you start out with 95-pound, there are more efficient ways to build size and strength. Making sets count is going to be optimal for building size and strength at the same time. But size, adding strength will always add size. Where a lot of guys go wrong in the gym and where a lot of misinformation comes from is guys will add a little bit of strength and they're not really making the sets count. They get some neuromuscular adaptation, they add a little bit of strength and not a little bit of size. So, hey, big, hairy, ugly dude, what are cheat reps appropriate in training for gaining size? Cheat reps or momentum? That's a very complicated question, because momentum or speed is not cheating. It is generating power, and the muscle will respond to power generation. You are designed to generate force. So we have to differentiate between a cheat rep and an explosive rep. If you're doing pure cheat reps, like here's an example of a cheat rep. I might do more stricter curls with just a little bit of English. And at the end, when I'm feeling like I'm close to failure, I might just give a little bit of English. So you got to look at cheat reps like that with a little bit of English. Ask yourself if they're safe on a specific exercise, because you don't want to put yourself in a position with heavy weight where you're doing a cheat rep and you're going to hurt yourself. With very heavy weights on heavy compound movements, cheat reps can generally be more dangerous, except for things like power shrugs. So you got to look at it exercise by exercise basis. Do you ever fast? I used to fast a little bit. I've tried 1 and 2 and even 3-day fasts. I pee a lot. I would give my body a break sometimes. I don't really like it. I tried intermittent fasting and variations of intermittent fasting for about 8 years. So yeah, I think it's good sometimes to give your body a break from the heavy digestion, but I personally don't like doing a juice or liquid fast more than a day or 2 at a time. It's just not something I enjoy. Can you make gains with insomnia and can't sleep? Oh yes, you can, because if you couldn't, every fit chick and fit guy over 30 and 40 with kids would be small as heck. Sleep is very important. Sleep is good in the long run for human growth hormone regulation. But as with all things in the industry, we tend to scare people thinking if you don't get enough sleep, all gains are lost. If you don't get enough protein, all gains are lost. In reality, when things aren't optimal, the difference might be small. We're talking percentage points, 1 or 2 or 3 or 5%. So you can still make quality gains with less than optimal sleep. Trust me, I've raised 2 children and I didn't sleep a hell of a lot. So you all good. Let's see, how do you deal with body dysmorphia? Any type of addiction or aberrant behavior, the best thing to do is analyze the root nature of that behavior. Try to figure out why you're doing that. I struggled with binge eating. Body dysmorphia sounds different, but it is at its heart you're looking at things not how they are. A lot of people have degrees of body dysmorphia. That's not necessarily a bad thing. We tend to pick out our flaws and the things that are wrong with us. But where it becomes crippling is when you can't function, like you won't go out in public because you think every shirt makes you look fat, or you think you don't look muscular enough and you're too ashamed to go out in public. So body dysmorphia, unless it's crippling or causing you to change your social habits, you just kind of got to sometimes just keep improving yourself. And you got to start also looking at the positives in you. And when people pay you compliments, you need to understand that there's probably something to that. How to deal with people criticizing your physique. I'm going to be crude here, but when people criticize you, fuck them. Their opinion doesn't fucking count. You know what, when people criticize me, I tell them to fuck off. I just don't care. You don't care. people's opinions of you don't matter unless they're your boss. Now, you can listen to things, and there might be some constructive information in there, but when people tell me how to eat, people tell me how to sleep, people tell me what to do, people say, hey, you should probably be ripped because I don't give a fuck what anybody thinks. You got to learn the fine art in life of not giving a fuck. This is your life. Fuck everybody. Tell them to fuck off and do whatever the fuck you want. Amen. There's your sermon for the weekend. So that's a lot of fucks. Hats off to Alan Roberts. Sorry. What motivates you and how do you stay motivated? That's a good question, and I'll answer that. And the waxy maze question, I'm going to try to get to that. The question about 135-pound squat or 130 kilogram squat for a 17-year-old, that's wonderful. That's great. Waxy maze question, I'm going to get to that. Boy, you guys have some good questions. I can't keep up, but let's see. What motivates you and how do you stay motivated? How do you stay motivated? First off, you do what you love. If you don't love it, don't do it. But when it comes to health and physical stuff, hey, I love to eat cake. I love to sit on my ass. So the question becomes, I don't feel motivated to do it, but I know I have to do it for longevity. What do you do then? You have to treat it like a job. You have to treat it with the seriousness of a mature adult and realize I need to do these things to live longer, or I need to accept the consequences. To foster motivation when it's lacking, get up, watch a video in the morning that motivates you. Watch a YouTube video that motivates you. Read an article. You have to have habits that cultivate motivation every single day. Surround yourself with people that have the same goals. You have to have people in your circle that have the same goals, so you can stay in that comfort zone, that area of life where people are all focused on the same goals you are, whether it's staying healthy, going to the gym. They can ask you, hey, you going to the gym today? You have to cultivate motivation, whether it's online communities, Facebook or forums, reading articles every day, watching a YouTube video every day. That stuff helps. So that's how I stay motivated. I stay immersed in it. I had a question about waxy maze, and let me see if I can figure it, because Muscle Freak said Vitergo versus waxy maze post-workout. Is it better to go with real food? In my opinion, it's always better to go with real food, but sometimes you have the convenience factor. I would rather see you, go with waxy maze than with like a Little Debbie snack cake, which has a lot of other ingredients in there. If you're going to eat something, that's more sugar or carbs, you might want to eat something that doesn't have, you might want to minimize the, all the extra ingredients. But yeah, natural food or whole foods are always a better choice. But you also have the, the 80-20 rule, where sometimes you just need to eat something out of convenience that gives you some quick energy. So my advice is, as long as your diet is balanced and reasonable, do what's convenient and easy for you for that 20%. I hope that makes sense. Are stiff leg deadlifts good for increasing squats? I wouldn't say they're good for increasing squats. I think they're a good option more for increasing deadlifts. They're good for hamstring strength and glute strength, and they can help stabilize the squat in that sense. They can help build a stronger core. The best bang for your buck in increasing your squats, and this is something that's not taught enough in the lifting realm, is really getting your quads as strong as humanly possible. And I know people tend to laugh at leg presses and hack squats, and I do box jumps, and I do hack squats, and I do leg presses, and I do leg extensions, and I do body weight lunges until I want to vomit. I do a ton of quad work. People will look at my quads online, they're like, they give me the Quadzilla stuff. Quad work is the best bang for your buck, but you also need to get your hamstrings strong. Do you hunt? I don't have much time to hunt anymore. I used to do a little bit of hunting and fishing. Sometime when I'm independently wealthy, I'll probably get back out there again. Rep goal system question: what would be the maximum amount of sets allowed per exercise? Really, you have to look at sets per workout and find a comfortable set per workout. that's good for you. And then you have to look at exercises, because you want a good mix of compounds, then a lighter or more moderate compound, and then machines, and then maybe isolation work. So you got to figure in what exercises you're going to do in a workout, how many sets you're going to do in a workout. And then once you have that structured, you can do, like on compounds, 2, 3, 4, even 5 sets. I mean, the compound, start with your compounds and do as many sets for compounds as you feel you want, and then work out from there. Please answer my question. I want to learn. I don't know what your question is. Autoregular progression can even take you to the late intermediate stages. Once you become advanced, though, how do you progress if your goal is hypertrophy? Once you become advanced, you have gained 95% of the muscle and strength you will ever gain. So at that point, you need to understand you're not doing anything wrong. The biggest way you can become bigger and stronger as an advanced lifter is patience. It might take you 10 years to put on 2 pounds of muscle, and that's a reality you need to understand. So with that in mind, you need to train smart and stay injury-free and not always push every set to the limit. One of the things I like to do is do 3, 4, or 5 sets of 10 with an exercise, and then when that weight feels manageable, then I'll add some more weight. But you still need to have progression in the mix. You need to be patient, and you really need to train smart, and you need to understand the game. Reposting a question: what do you think about muscle balance imbalance? How important is it? How should we take care of it? I'm not sure if I understand your question, but I will tell you, when it comes to training the upper body, and let's talk about balance training. You have pushes, okay? You have pulls. You have horizontal pushes and pulls. Those need to be balanced. You have vertical pushes and pulls. Those need to be balanced. And with those balanced, that's a good foundation. You want to make sure you have a good balance between horizontal push and pull, or bench press and rows, horizontal press or vertical press, which is overhead press, and vertical pull, which is like pull downs or chin ups. Those need to be balanced, and that by balancing those, you're going to hit your chest and your shoulders and your back pretty equally. When it comes to lower body, you just want to make sure you have enough hamstring work. When it comes to size imbalances, you can have a size imbalance between a muscle over the course of your life and do everything right. I do. One arm is a ½ inch bigger, one leg is a ½ inch bigger. Don't worry about that stuff. There's really nothing different you can do, and I don't care what anybody says. I've had imbalances for 32 years and I've tried everything, and they don't go away. Just focus on what you can control, getting everything as strong and as big as humanly possible. All right, how to lower high blood pressure through strength training. Oh, wow, high blood pressure. You need to understand, and you probably know enough about high blood pressure, so I'm not trying to give you a lecture, but you want to make sure that you're getting enough potassium, because one of the major contributors to high blood pressure is a potassium-sodium imbalance. People focus on sodium as far as blood pressure, but you want to make sure you're getting enough potassium. You also want to reduce your carbs, and this might be controversial, but carbs will flood and pump extra water into the bloodstream as that insulin's released, and it's going to cause some blood pressure spikes for people that already have high blood pressure. Those two things, strength training inherently will help with your vitals, so you just need to strength train in general, and you need to do some cardio work as well, but you also need to temper that with maybe some reduced carbs and good potassium intake and stress, a lot of sex, extra amounts of sex. Stalling on Alpha Destiny's novice program. I'm an advanced novice. Should I switch to periodization? No, don't switch to periodization. Try my method. My rep goal system, auto-regulated progression. There'll never be any stalls. Because it's not a linear progression. When I say that, you're going to be like, how can you say there'll never be any stalls? Because you're as a novice and an intermediate lifter, and I mean there won't be any stalls. As a novice and intermediate lifter, you'll make consistent progression. You will. So check out my book, Massive Iron. Every time I do between 5 to 8 reps on compounds, it gets really taxing. Can I stick to 8 to 12 to 15? Yeah, you can use whatever rep range you want on compound movements. The key is to have a defined progression scheme. That is really one of the things that is very important in evolving your training. If you're doing an exercise that you don't like the rep range on, change the rep range, because there's nothing magic about the rep range. The magic is that you're doing the exercise to begin with and that you have some form of progression. So the answer to any question, can I change the rep range? It doesn't feel good. Yes, always, 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 always. Always evolve your training to do what feels good for you, because if you're in your comfort zone and progressing, it is all good. All right, guys, I got time for a few more questions. And I missed. If I missed your questions, just post them in the link below to one of my videos. Important cue. Did you ever overcome your hamstring injury? I did, but here's the thing. I noticed it on deadlifts. Like, I noticed it pulling on deadlifts. So what I'm doing right now is I'm relearning the squat. I'm relearning the squat without wraps. I'm trying to build my squat back up from the ground up. So I started with 185 doing 4 sets of 10. And I'm working on my form without wraps. I'm up to like 225 for 4 sets of 10. I'm going to keep building that over the course of the year until without wraps, until maybe I get to 365 by 4 by 10, have my confidence back up, and we'll see if I'm interested in powerlifting again after that. Thoughts on soy? Does it really increase estrogen levels? Here's the thing. Most of this stuff in fitness is so overblown. Unless all you're eating is soy, anytime anybody comes to you and says, this food does this food does that, and it's just a reasonable food like soy or a banana, a little bit isn't going to do anything. Don't worry about that stuff. It makes for good talk on articles, but generally it's just a big steaming shitball, so ignore it. That, you can quote me there, big steaming shitball. For a while, I'm thinking about muscle gain. It's a byproduct of strength or a specific activity. Muscle gain comes from progressive overload, making every set count. Check out my book, Massive Iron. It'll teach you everything you need to know. You can't really gain much muscle at all without strength, unless you have some pretty advanced body weight programs. Let's see, hip pain while squatting. Hip pain, that's a question that's hard to answer in a video like this, because there can be a lot of causes. It could be too narrow stance. It could be too wide of stance. It could be a knee issue. If your knees are, the direction of your quad should match the direction of your feet. But that's if you got your feet in place. There's so many mechanical issues that could be wrong with your squat you really have to have somebody analyze your squat as a starting point. And if you still have hip pain after that, then you have to take the next step and analyze it. Let's see, somebody's posting in Swedish. I don't know what any of that means. Somebody's saying, what the fuck? Are you planning on making a book for advanced lifters? No, because advanced lifters don't need help. They already know how to train. The problem with talking about beginner, intermediate, and advanced lifters is a lot of beginner and intermediates want to think they're an advanced lifter, but in reality there's very, very few advanced lifters. And when you're an advanced lifter, you know you're an advanced lifter and you know how to train. So that's the reality. That's as honest as I can. Turn your gas on and burn your hand. How about this? How about come over to my apartment and let me beat the living shit out of your ass, you smart ass motherfucker. It's just humor. Just humor, punks. Kids. Your stream has a System 32 virus. Good. I'm about to ban this guy from the stream because he's a fool. And block. Okay, blocked all the retards. And oops, I said something inappropriate. We're getting rid of all the fools on here. So sorry about the issues. Sorry about people clogging up the feed. You look like Logan from X-Men. I get that so often. It's kind of crazy. I'm going to answer a couple more questions. I'm sorry about the spammers. I am trying to block them. they obviously are taking a break from their chronic masturbation and video game addiction to come see Logan from X-Men. So I'm going to do a couple more questions. Have you ever trained neck directly? I get this a lot. And no, I'm not a big proponent of direct neck training myself. That doesn't mean it doesn't have value. I'll get to the biggest myth about weight loss. But neck training, if you're going to do it, do something that, is easy on the spine and the neck, because that's something you can easily jack up. A neck harness is a good thing. You can, do all kinds of range of motion. Dan John, I've read a lot of his books. I'm a fan of some of his stuff, so it's a hard question to answer in the context of this video. The biggest myth about weight loss, here's the thing about weight loss. People, when they gain weight because of habit. They gain weight because of bad habits, drinking too many calories, making too many bad food choices. So the biggest myth about weight loss is that people think they need to do something special to lose weight. In reality, most people just need to analyze their bad habits and remove them. And once they remove their habits, you know what? Even if they're not counting calories, they're probably going to lose weight because they're eating better and they're feeling better. So that's the biggest myth, that people need something special or to do all this magic. In reality, they need to assess their bad habits and turn their life around. Alpha Destiny said you should reach it. I have strength standards. Check out strength standards, muscleandbrawn.com. I've written the book on strength standards. Alpha Destiny got his information probably from me, because I put together so many strength standard articles. Strength standards, muscle and brawn, strength standards in this channel. I have plenty of videos on strength standards. But after a first year of lifting, it's easy to say that somebody should have a 225-pound bench, but a lot of guys just aren't naturally strong on bench. 225 is a good goal for bench after your first year to year and a half. If you're not in that range, you're probably doing something wrong. Squat, 275 to 315 after 12 to 18 months is a good goal. And let's see, do you work arms together? I like working arms together and unilaterally. You should really try to work every muscle group with at least one unilateral exercise per week. And by unilateral, I mean one arm or one leg at a time. You can generally lift more with one arm than you can with both. And let me explain. Barbell rows. Dumbbell rows. I could one arm dumbbell row 270 for 10 reps, but I can't barbell row 540 for 10 reps. I can only do 405 for 5. When you just use one arm unilaterally, or one leg unilaterally, or one muscle unilaterally, the central nervous system just responds in a different way, and you can generally use more weight. More weight, more strength equals more muscle. All right, guys, that's it. Do I do online coaching? Not at this time. I just don't have time. But if I missed your question, there is a Q&A link below in every video, and it's not going to be in this video right away. But you can submit your question on tigerfitness.com, and I try to answer every question, even if it takes me a couple days to get to them. I appreciate your support, guys. If you need some more quality information on dieting and lifting, I have 2 amazing books that are linked below in most of my videos. Flex Calorie Dieting, it's not magic, but it shows you how to get it done and have some calories for junk food. And Massive Iron, which in my opinion, and my mom's too, is the best damn muscle building book on the planet, because it teaches you to maximize any program. Let's get this lovely, wonderful Australian in here. I love all of you guys. I appreciate your support. I've been doing this for almost 5 years, and I love each and every one of you. Take your hat off for a minute. I don't have a receding hairline.
Shaves it.
I'm not bald. I've been shaving it for 10 years because it's easier to roll out of bed.
It looks hotter.
Yeah, and after we do adult activities, I don't look like really bad. Honestly, with hair,
messy red hair.
I had hair 2 years ago. I just let it grow out, and I look like Robert Downey Jr. And ain't nobody got time for that, because I want to look like a big hairy ugly dude. All right, yeah. Look at this beautiful woman. Oh, See you guys.
See ya.
Yep.